Spore. A once beloved game that's been bought over 2 million times within the first 3 weeks of its release. But what happened to it after that initial success? Well, that's the question I asked myself a while back, since I remember it being quite popular and well loved by the players. And while Spore did release in 2008, it's not like old games don't get played anymore nowadays. For example, look at games like Minecraft, League of Legends, Team Fortress 2 or World of Warcraft even. All of these games are released around the same time as Spore and still have an active player base today. So why doesn't Spore get played anymore? Well, the answer is more complex than you might think. To understand, we first need to start from the beginning. Where did Spore come from? The story begins in the early 2000s with game developer Will Wright, the creative mind behind big hits like The Sims and SimCity. He dreamed of creating a game where players could control the evolution of life itself. His vision was incredibly ambitious. A game where players would start as tiny cells, evolve into complex creatures, develop intelligent civilizations, and eventually explore the cosmos. This concept of shaping life and witnessing the consequences of the player's choices was groundbreaking at the time. Development of this revolutionary game, later known as Spore, was developed at Maxis, the studio responsible for his previous successes. Development of Spore was a monumental task. Will wanted to add so much to the game, and it seemed to be possible, however compromises have to have been made, which I'll come back to later. One of the most innovative features added to the game was the creature creator. Here players could essentially build their own creature from the very ground up and modify every single bone in its body. The game would then animate these creatures, making them move and interact with the world in a believable way. As you can see here, you can make the most ugly and unnatural creatures, and the game would make it as playable characters. The Creature Creator was released as a standalone tool months before the game even launched, but it did cost another $10, which, well, is definitely what I would expect from an EA game. However, besides that, it did become a huge hit, with a whopping 400,000 sales, so they were definitely onto something. And on top of that, doing God's work at 38% efficiency, as players have created the same number of currently known species on Earth in about 18 days, compared to God's 6 days. As development progressed, Maxis and EA, the game's publisher, started building hype for Spore. They showcased the game at major events like E3 and released multiple trailers, and some of them even aired on TV. The gaming community was buzzing with excitement and expectations were sky high. Will Wright's involvement added to the anticipation, as his previous games had been massive successes. And so, after years of hard work, Spore was finally released to the public. But this all sounds way too good to be true. What actually happened to Spore after its release? Well, let's start with one of the biggest problems Spore had. EA. EA's involvement had a significant impact on Spore as a whole. I think we all know what kind of an evil company EA is, mostly because of all the loot boxes and microtransactions they add to their games. But that wasn't the problem with Spore. However, the problem was sort of similar in that EA wanted to absolutely maximize the profits of their game. Well, one of the major issues was the digital rights management, or DRM for short. In short, a DRM is a technology used by software companies to control how digital content is used and distributed. A DRM aims to prevent piracy by restricting the ability to copy, share, or modify the digital product without authorization. Well, Spore's DRM was seen as overly restrictive. It limited installations, preventing users from installing the game more than 3 times without contacting customer support, which sounds absolutely ridiculous. This restriction was widely criticized and led to significant backlash, with many gamers feeling that it treated legitimate customers like potential criminals. Additionally, users could only create 1 account per game copy, meaning households with multiple players had to buy multiple copies, which further fueled dissatisfaction, which was quite a tough pill to swallow, as the game also cost $50 on release. So what is my opinion on it? Well, I remember really enjoying this game a lot when I was a kid, and I didn't really care about all the downsides. And well, looking at the situation now, I feel like the game would have looked a lot different if it was released in 2024. And well, not by EA. The idea was absolutely amazing, and the execution was... well, it was alright, it could have been better. That said, Spore was a major inspiration to many popular modern games. One of these I really love is No Man's Sky. This is also one of my favorite games, period. And you can clearly feel what elements of the game were inspired by Spore. In my opinion, No Man's Sky is kind of a modern and better version of Spore's space stage. So will there ever be a Spore 2? That is a question that me and many other people have asked. And I think the answer is no. As Will Wright left Maxis about a year after Spore's release, and in 2015, the whole of Maxis was was shut down as well. However, I do think Spore was very important for the development of other games, as Maxis showed everyone what could be done with a video game, and in doing so, inspire many future developers to come.